everyone. This is my teaching, learning, interaction number 1. My name is Taylor McMillan, and I'm going to break this into chapters as I talk about this. So my first one is chapter 1. I really enjoyed, first off, actually, I really am enjoying this reading. I feel a connection with the author and the sources he's using, because I feel like this is, when I read this book, I feel as though this is why I chose this major. This is why I'm excited and hope to go and get my master's and go get my PhD in teaching people this, and how this book related to me and what I can do to become a better individual in this field. So in chapter 1, it talked a lot about defining the family and a brief history behind what the family is, and how the family life education is beneficial to people. As I was reading the chapter, I thought a lot about the different organizations in my community, and because it talked a lot about how we have in this community so many different organizations. We have the PTA, and we have just supportive groups. Even when we were, and I don't think it's in chapter 1, maybe it is, where it talks about the web base. And I don't know how many of you are moms in my group, but when I'm on Facebook, and so I thought that this outreach program that we're talking about in the book, it really is true. Like, we have so many organizations out there that are helping us, even if we don't even realize how much they're helping us and how much they are facilitating, and our peers are helping us in this family life education. And so as I was reading the book, I felt my eyes have been opened so much, because it's not just going to a counselor and sitting down and laying down on a sofa. It is talking to our peers and with people with background, even a little bit. When one thing that I thought was really interesting, when it went on to talk about the university-based outreach efforts, I always thought that you had to have a degree in this field in order to practice anything at all. And as I was, when I was studying this week, in the past couple weeks, I realized that they were talking about in the book that in the past, like 30 years, you were able to go and work with these organizations, and if you worked there, you could get your certification after 2 to 5 years. And obviously that's not if you're a therapist or a psychiatrist, obviously, but you can be a mentor to people all the time if you are willing to listen to people. So that, I thought that was really interesting. As I was reading about the community movements, I thought it was really awesome how they had the organizations for the mothers, the National Congress of Mothers, and I thought that it was really neat how they made sure, the government made sure, that the parents were involved in the children's lives. And that outreach program is huge. I feel like now, especially now, parents are working late and work is more important than children. And this organization, or these organizations, such as the PTA and the Congress of Mothers, they almost, I don't want to say force, but sort of force us to have to stay together and to be parents. And I think that that is great. And so I love that. I also really enjoyed in the first chapter about how divorcing couples are, the couples that are divorcing, they are almost making them go through therapy for at least a certain amount of time, just to make sure that's actually what they want. So I thought that was great. I like I said, I really loved chapter 1. I thought that it really taught me, it really opened my eyes to everything. As I was reading about the different approaches, and that, like I said earlier about the web base, I didn't realize how much there was for us to learn from others, not just, like I said, a therapist. It's our friends or our Facebook groups or whatever it is, or an intervention from our family with guidance from a facilitator. I just thought all of it was wonderful. As I went on to read the other chapters, like chapter 2, we talked a lot about the prevention programs and what we can do to prevent the actual issues. So one thing I really, really liked was I don't know how to pronounce his name, but it's like Labate. That was his name. He talked about 3 levels of prevention. And the primary, where people want to build skills before they have the issues. The secondary, where people are working with, like the therapists are working with people when they're showing the risk factors where they might have the issues, but they might not actually have the problem yet. And the oh my goodness, the third one, they're the people that are already going through the issue, and they're going to help them go through it. I think when I was reading this, I went on to think a lot about how people now, and I think always have been, they don't think of the fact that, well, I can't ask help when I'm not necessarily having big problems. Maybe I personally, when I was reading this, I actually got goosebumps because I felt like this is for everyone. This isn't, and that's why I think this is what the book is trying to show us. This is for everyone. This is for anyone around us at all times. It doesn't matter if you're having problems or not, because we all can learn. And I thought that was awesome that this is not something for people that are dealing with, maybe not all the time, obviously it is, but dealing with only pornography in their family, or their children or their teens are not coming over curfew. I don't know, whatever your problem is that's causing stress in your family. It is for families that just want to improve themselves, that aren't necessarily having any major distresses in their lives. So that was major to me. It was like mind blown. As I was reading about the correlations between what, like, as I was learning how I can become a better in this major and later on, because I hope to one day be able to practice therapy in marriage. So I want to work with people's communication skills and get to the bottom line within marriages. And so as I was reading in the next chapters, I thought a lot about the chapter 16, for instance. As we go on to chapter 16, they talked a lot about the marketing and the principles behind, and I'm going to incorporate that with chapter 18, because I feel like they talked a lot about the ethics and the morals behind it, even though they're talking about the marketing a little bit in both. I thought a lot about, what do I have to offer these people? And that's what I need to figure out. I hope to figure out a lot of that in this class, even before I go on and get my master's and maybe my PhD. I hope to be able to figure out, what am I trying to offer people? I also thought about, and like I said, my audience is going to be married couples. I hope that as I was reading through this, I hope to be able to learn more about myself than others. And I feel like that might be selfish, but I feel like, especially in the later chapters of this book, I felt as though it was connecting with me on an individual basis, saying, this is what you need to do to prepare for what you're wanting to do for the rest of your life. So, and one of the best things I loved about chapter 16 was it talked about, what are you going to do for the community in order, like in the marketing, but what are you going to do in the community to actually help others? And so it talked about what are our soft spots? Like, there was a guy who wanted to help military families. There were people who did nonprofit work. There were people who did night classes, that they really weren't benefiting maybe financially, but they were for sure benefiting, not just marketing wise, but emotionally and connecting with their clientele. So I loved that they talked about that in this book. So as I was reading the book, I'm more than anything excited to learn about what I actually want to do with this. And so I feel like that was the main thing I got from it, was, what am I going to do with what I have now? I have 4 years of experience in college so far. I have a little bit of experience in marriage, and as I go on to continue to get more education behind me, as I have learned and what I'm going to learn, what do I want to make the foundation of my workplace and my actually professional career. So I love that. As I went on to the Appendix A, I feel like it just went on. It was like an extension from 16 and 18. It talked a lot about the different principles of what we need to feel and do and be a part in order to connect with our clients. So I feel like my favorite one, there were a lot of good ones, but my favorite was the principle of agency that it talked about. And when people want to make poor choices, they say that people make poor choices, and maybe they're coming in because of those poor choices, and they're making excuses. But it basically talked about no one can act different than what they're thinking. So no matter what choice they made, they thought about it at some point. So we need to help them realize that that is an issue. Like, that's their problem, and we need to help them, but it's not someone else's fault. And so that was one of my favorite things, because it again relayed back to me, and I thought about that in my own life even, and how that can teach me to become a better person. So I've really enjoyed this reading, and I'm excited to hear from the rest of you. Have a great day, you guys.